Welcome to the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
Here we aim to provide you with the experience, strength, and hope of professionals actively working on the front lines in the field of food addiction.
The purpose of this summit is to educate you and increase overall awareness about food addiction as a disease with abstinence as the solution.
Every day for the month of October, we are sharing one inspiring speaker or highlighted food preparation video from the incredible Tony Vassallo of Moda Nutrition Inc. and the Real Food Revival Movement.
We have 4 weeks of interviews with the leaders in the field of food addiction, clinicians who are working on the front lines, registered dietitians and nutritionists that are working toward bridging the eating disorder and food addiction camps, and people just like you and me.
Here we talk about all things food addiction recovery. Most importantly, how to thrive rather than just survive.
So stay positive, make a change for yourself, tell others about your change, and hopefully the message will spread.
And as Vera always says,
the power is ours.
All right. Thank you guys for being here today with us on the Food Junkies Summit. We have Judy, Wolfe, and Anna Freuhling, and I'm going to give them the floor and let them introduce themselves and give us some background. So ladies, whoever would like to go first, go ahead.
Go ahead. Want me to go, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Judy, and I call myself a low bottom, high maintenance food addict and a person of more. And I say that because I've been in recovery for 30 years, and I am really a low bottom food addict. And just a little about my background, because I'm not going to get into 30 years, but basically I started in a 12-step program 30 years ago. I lost over 100 pounds. And after a couple of years, I took one bite. I took H.E.'s girl. I was sitting in a living room with some friends and family. And that started a road for me of 13 years of misery and an 80-pound bite. And I could not figure out what to do at all. I never stopped going to program. I knew I had a problem. I knew at that time, I didn't know I was an addict, but I knew I was a compulsive overeater, and I just didn't know what to do. So anyway, I found, after that, I found a program in which I had to give up grains and sugar and weigh and measure without exception. And that's really how I found my abstinence, which was 16 plus years ago. So folks, it took me 15 years to get 16 years. So please keep that in mind. And then I went on just as briefly, I'm passionate about helping food addicts. So I went on and did the INFACT training with Esther Helga. I went to Iceland. I know that Clarissa's done that. And then I felt like I needed even more. I'm very interested in a holistic approach. So I went on and trained with Bitten Johnson so that I'm sugar licensed and certified, as well as trained in holistic medicine for addiction. And then here I am today as one of the Sugar X Global Recovery Specialists talking with you. Take it away, Anna.
Well, my name is Anna Freuhling, and my story goes way back with addiction. And so I'm the typical addiction interactive disorder girl. If it would numb how I felt, I used it, and from a very young age. So I first got into recovery for drugs and alcohol when I was 17. And then I went back out after about 18 months because I thought it was the drugs, right? I didn't understand that drugs are what you use as a symptom of the disease, and the disease is a brain disease, and that changes have been made permanently in your brain. So when I came back and got clean, I was 23, and I've been clean from drugs and alcohol ever since. But I had once a week, I had what we called, us girls would go out for sex fudge Sundays because we were abstaining from sex. And my Sunday would be like piled with candy, whatever they could put on it. And everybody else's looked different than mine, but I was skinny. So, people didn't think I had a problem. But they're like, if I was going to eat something, it was going to be, there's no off button. There was no stop button. If it had something psychoactive in it, like sugar, flour, fat, salt mixed together, whatever, it didn't matter. And I always say, my drug of choice was yours. I can tell you then at 9 years clean, I became suicidal. And I now look back and I can see that I became depressed over an issue. And, we begin to use food like the S. Uncoat talks about, to cover up our emotions. That's one of the symptoms that we gain of our addiction. And so I didn't realize that's what I was doing. So all day I would eat well at work, and then I would lay on the couch at night and just eat Ben and Jerry's and eat and snack on candy or whatever. And I became suicidal because I didn't know how to handle my emotions. All the while I'm going to 12-step meetings. I have a sponsor. I'm sponsoring women. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I got diagnosed with autoimmunity, and I had horrible rheumatoid arthritis. I could barely wipe my own ass for 3 years. And I was on heavy duty medications, and I blew up like a balloon because I was on so much prednisone. I was on immune suppressants, chemo drugs, you name it. And I found out I had celiac, and I got off of gluten, and it was like the Tin Man got oil. So all of a sudden I could move better. And so I started wondering about food. So I got certified through Mark Sisson of Primal Health Coach, or Mark's Daily Apple. He has that blog, and he's also Primal Kitchen's products, where you can get actually decent salad dressings and mayonnaise and things, thank God. And so I was really off. I was eating very clean for many years when all of a sudden I saw Bitten Johnson, and it was on the Quit Sugar Summit that Mike Collins was having. And I saw her talking about her alcoholism and that sugar was the gateway drug, and every bone in my body lit up. It was like, oh my God. And so I reached out to her. And you know what? She contacted me, and she did a sugar evaluation on me. And I saw a pattern of behavior in my life, like so clearly, like I had never seen it before, And I didn't have very many relapses because I was already used to not eating it. I had a couple of times of getting through the holidays that I'm not even going to call them relapses. I just failed a couple of times, but I got right back up because my knowledge of recovery and my knowledge of all of that was sound, from years. And I just, I don't even remember the last time I had a bite of anything that is harmful for me or binged on anything, and it's so freeing. And I'm just so grateful for such a pioneer. And I too am trained through Bitten Johnson, and actually Dave, Judy, and I all three help her train people as well, which is really, I'm just humbled by her trusting us with this message and this hope. And I really think that it is the primary cause of addiction, sugar being the gateway drug. And so I wish I would have known that, from the beginning about addiction and interactive disorder. I wish I would have known more about that. I wish treatment centers treated it holistically and fed you good food and gave you sunshine and helped you learn how to sleep and deal with stress. That's what I wish. And that's what we do at Sugar X Global. So we tell people you have to quit all psychoactive substances. So, in order to really recover. You can't keep picking the scab, every time you get a hit, it's like you're opening the wound. We gotta stop doing that.
So speaking of that, telling, individuals that you've got to remove all these psychoactive substances, you guys probably remember how hard it was at the beginning. Can you share a little about your experience and how you found the strength to keep going?
Yeah, I think for me, actually, a light bulb went off. I said that I started in a 12-step program. I had no idea what I was getting into. My aha moment was that I was doing a 500 calorie a day liquid diet. And I was going to the hospital 3 times a week, getting weighed in by a nurse. And one day she said to me, Judy, this is not a moral issue. This is not about being good or bad. This is about being a compulsive overeater. That's what she said to me. And for some reason, bells went off in my head. And I thought, oh, And she said, there are places you could go. You could go to a 12-step program. So I did look them up in line. I continued with the 500 calories a day thing because I had invested a lot of money in that. I think of all the money I wasted on diets, everybody, and we could talk about that later. I could own a house for that, I'm sure. Anyway, and I made a phone call and they said, well, there's a newcomers meeting on Monday morning, and it's about the 12 steps. And I didn't know what they were talking about. So, but I went into a church basement and I met somebody who handed me a book and said, listen, maybe you could, maybe you want to read this. I mean, somebody doesn't even know my name, nothing, handed me something and said, take it. And I did. So I started reading stories. But what really hit me was that I started to read the AA 12 and 12 book, about the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And I don't know, for some reason, that too, light bulbs went off, that I felt connected somehow spiritually. And I felt like, oh, this really makes sense. Like I could have a personal higher power or God of my understanding that would care about what I put in my mouth or didn't put in my mouth. I mean, that just made like no sense to me. I mean, I had a relationship with God, I had a religion, but nothing up close and personal. And so for me, in the beginning, it really wasn't hard to give stuff up because I just kept asking for help. And as I said, though, you can get cocky, you can get assured that everything's going to go fine. And I thought I could have that one bite. I could take that one first bite. And guess what? It led me down a rabbit hole, as I said, for 13 years where I could not find a solution. And I never left. So, I can't say what I struggled with, but you can see for 13 years, I struggled where no matter what I did, and I kept showing up, guys. I kept showing up to meetings. I kept making phone calls. I kept my friends and my connections. And then one day, I bit the bullet and gave up the grains and the sugar and weighed and measured without exception. And that made the difference for me. Mind you, though, folks, I still wanted to play, the puppet on the string, so to speak, with the food. And it took me over about a year in that program to finally give up the food for good. And April 30th, 2005 was the last time I had a day one of my food plan. And I just do it a day at a time. I don't know why, how, what. I plan, I prepare, I protect. I mean, I can talk about that later, but I do all of that. But, it's not easy to give up what I call your nummies in the beginning. It's really hard because that's what we're used to. And everyone else is telling us that, oh, you can have that. You can have one. It's okay. It's not detrimental. I mean, yeah, I'm a sugar addict too, blah, blah, blah. The same thing goes on and on. But the bottom line is that I know that I can't have one, one bite is too many. 1,000 will never be enough. So no matter what, I'm known as that, no matter what, I don't eat off my plan, no matter what.
So, I agree with Judy. I have to do whatever it takes just for today in order to protect my food plan, my way of life, my thinking. I really am a big fan of Dr. Paul Earley and the whole contain your brain, contain your environment, control the things you can control, have no doubt about it's war out there and what's your plan of attack today. What are your potential pitfalls coming up? Even as a celiac, I learned early on because back then people were gluten intolerant or, it was just kind of in to go gluten free. And so I would get comments and eyes rolling and all kinds of stuff. And I have a disease, And so when I discovered I have the disease that food is a problem for me and sugar is a problem, I have no problem standing up for that. I believe this is a physical disease. I think people forget that the brain is an organ. I was a nurse. The brain is an organ. It's an energy hog. It takes 20% of our calories. Our bodies will manufacture its own glucose to support our brain as we sleep at night. Our brain is so sensitive too. And one thing that I see with people is the whole diet mentality. And it's very concerning to me because I understand the physical body. Having been a nurse, my husband's a doctor. Mark Sisson's program is extraordinarily in depth on that stuff. I'm also certified through Maria Emmerich and her keto carnivore program. And I'm also a high performance coach. And that's all brain rewiring stuff with Brendan Burchard, scientifically based. And the brain is an organ. If I had a broken arm, I'd go to the doctor and get help for a brain. But somehow people are ashamed to get help for something is wrong with my brain, and it's really angering to me. I'm not going to sit there. I don't have to defend to somebody the truth. I've seen MRIs of the brain and the changes in the low energy that our brains have because they have been wounded by a substance. And I am with Bitten Johnson on that. I believe that the sugar came first, and trauma and all of that stuff could accelerate the disease of addiction, but it is not the cause of the disease of addiction. It's early and chronic exposure to a psychoactive substance called sugar. We eat 120 pounds on average per year now, and it was 4 pounds a year in 1776. That's astronomically a huge shift in what's happening in the human body. Our brains have shrunk since then, and it's possibly a result of not eating foods that support brain health. And so to me, it's not just about what I don't eat, it's about how I feed my brain and my body. And my brain has a hypothalamus, and that's the master control of the body. And if I practice starvation like dieters do, and I eat too low of calorie, I don't upregulate the right leptin levels, because if you have too high of leptin, your body becomes leptin resistant, and leptin tells you you're full. And so your hypothalamus literally says, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, because you'll be leptin resistant during starvation because your body needs nutrients. And so we think we can fool it. We still want it to be a math problem, calories in, calories out, when it's truly a brain problem. And we need to eat food that sustains us and nourishes our brain and our body. And once our brain heals, our body will get to the size it's supposed to be. It's not a shortcut. It's a healing that needs to occur. And there's a great book, if you haven't read it, it's called Burn. And I can't remember the author, but he's an expert on human metabolism. And it's an amazing account of, he doesn't understand addiction. And I believe that we have to look at everything we do and think through a lens of recovery when we're a recovering addict. So I cannot make any decision separate from, I have this thing and I need to stay safe and I need to keep that contained, because I don't want to let that monkey out of the zoo, like Judy talked about eating one cheese curl. One is too many. I've proven that to myself over and over again. When I relapsed, from drugs and alcohol, that was 6 years of hell. And guess what? I substituted one drug for another. I didn't do the hard stuff. I thought I could control it, but my disease progressed and continued to get worse until I was absolutely 100% in pain. You know why addicts change? Because it hurts and they're suffering. Pain is pain plus reflection equals growth. It equals change. And that's all there is to it. And you know what? I defy anybody to tell me that they started their recovery journey without some severe, serious mental, physical, spiritual pain going on. Because I'll tell you what, give me a desperate dying addict, give me someone who's at the bottom, and I'll give you somebody who I've got a great deal of hope for, because you're just at the right place to actually get the hell out of your own way and get some help. And in fact, I'm a big Elton John fan, and I will often be seen wearing my Elton John glasses. I got to see him before COVID, and he said on this day, however many years ago, I said the three most powerful words I've ever said in my life: I need help. And he stayed sober. And that's what it's about. And you know what? At SugarX, that's why we believe in having a community. Community comes first. And at our community, we encourage people to reach out to each other. And so they gather without us. Our 9-week graduates, they gather every single weekend together. They challenge each other. They help each other. They support each other. We figure they're adults. We don't own them. We want them to throw starfish just as much as we want to throw starfish back into the ocean. So anyway, sorry if I went on too long.
No need to be sorry at all. So really just kind of wondering, what do you guys attribute to like your successful recovery support? So like, what do you do on the daily that remains supportive of your recovery? And what are the things that maybe you still struggle with that, and that you still need to address or that you're working to manage, and how do you do that?
Well, I'll start. My day starts with getting up quite early, and I, put in a little prayer. I also do some meditation, not a lot, but I read something that hits me, spend about 10 minutes thinking about it. I also have a back injury, a knee injury. So I spend about 45, 50 minutes stretching exercises, certain routines that are very rote. And I use that as quiet time for myself also. Nobody else is up and around bothering me. And it's a miracle today that I do that. I mean, probably 5 to 7 times a week. I mean, I used to just blow that stuff off, and I don't blow that off at all. I mean, I pop on a SugarX Global meeting at 7 a.m. in the morning, while I'm multitasking, making breakfast for my husband, and I'm out the door by 7:45 to go swimming. That's another thing I do to take care of my health, my body, my mind, which I would, never have done in the past. And then also I make phone calls, to people. I mean, I happen to still text my food to a sponsor every day. Before that, I've planned and prepared and protected, knowing that when I wake up in the morning, how am I going to remain abstinent today on my food plan, clean from everything that would drive me out. And so I do plan, prepare, and protect. I have food, if you came to my house within 5 minutes, I'd probably be able to give you a lovely full course meal that would be, something that you could eat, free of sugar, grains, starches, flours, etc. And then, and I lead meetings, I do service, I volunteer, for foodaddictioninstitute.org. I know that Molly and Clarissa are on the board, very involved with that. I chair a committee. Dave, our other partner, is on the board, I believe. And, because I want to spread the word that, this is a real deal thing. We have to get the message out to people that sugar food addiction is real. It's no different than alcoholism, opiates, drugs, whatever, And so it's a busy day, and what gets in the way is work now, because, we created SugarX Global during COVID, which is very exciting. And we launched in April. We have like now probably 130 or so plus members. And we have a platform, which is, I say, kind of like Facebook, but not at all, because we control it. It's very organized. You can find a post, and people are always, we're global. We have people in New Zealand, Australia, England, all across the country here, Canada. France. We have people all over. So someone's up all the time. So I always feel like taking a quick look to see what's going on so that I can respond, because I think it's important to respond to posts as one of the specialists, as one of the leads, as one of the coaches. And so, and also because we're so new, we're creating incredible, what we call growth accelerators. incredible worksheets to help people, and where it's not like just scientific stuff. We're talking about looking deep down inside, finding out, yes, mind expanding. Did you see what Anna's got? Mind expanding. I've got one too. That we are asking people to look deep down inside themselves, to grow, to find their to be vulnerable, and to, become a victor over that vulnerability, and to grow and expand and learn, because that seems to be what is making the hugest difference with us. We have a 9-week accelerator program, and we're really asking these people to deep dive, and those are the people that are doing the best. It is amazing how that changes. And I'm not talking about just physically. I mean, you see it physically too. And you also see the eyes open up, the fog disappear. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And what they'll share and read to us related to those growth accelerators is unbelievable. And we do a lot with, we believe that connection is absolutely key. And that we believe that, in small groups, we do breakout groups, then come back maybe to everybody. We do a lot of role playing. So we utilize all that stuff, all the things that Anna, Dave, and I wished we knew when we first started in program. I probably wouldn't have taken that cheese curl if I had what, we're giving other people. Who knows, I mean, that, and recovery, you have blips on the road, and that recovery is not a straight line, in my opinion. There's the ups and downs. Life gets lifey. You may struggle here, struggle there, but you just have to keep showing up. Like, I don't tell people keep coming back. I just tell them to stick around until the miracle happens. Just keep showing up, because that's where recovery is going to happen.
Well, I agree with everything you said, Judy. And I think for me, I don't live in a struggle today. I live in the freedom of surrender, right? I surrender myself to this day, which I don't know how it's going to open up before me. I have a plan of how I'm going to live my day, and then I expect the unexpected. And my prayer in the morning is, God, what are we going to do today? Because it's not my day. It's never been my day. I only thought it was. My disease only thought I could control all of the variables. And that's just absolute bullshit. I can't control anything. I think about that house in Florida, or that big building in Florida, and how that one fireman found his own kid when he was going through the rubble. And I think he could not have predicted that, And so I am on board with, life gets lifey, is what Judy would say. And I think that, we don't tell people a lie. Oh, you're going to, your life is going to be beautiful and it's going to be great. You know what? Life is going to be lifey, and you're going to be prepared to handle it. And you're going to learn to be content with or without the circumstances you think you want. Because when we become content with right now, today, then nothing can get stolen from us. My joy and my verve for living, it cannot be destroyed. That can't be burnt down. You can't kill that. You can't take that away from me. There's not a dollar amount on that. It's not dependent on whether I have symptoms from my RA today or not, because I'm not going to decide how I feel about myself based on things outside of myself. That's a disease thing. More, different, better, K-Fuck radio says, right? And I say, you know what, turn the station. What I've learned is the first step says we were powerless over our addiction, and addiction is obsession compulsion, not a substance. I was powerless over my obsession, and my life became unmanageable as a result of the choices I made when I didn't know I had a choice. Now I'm not powerless. I was powerless. I have agency in my life. I can make a decision today. So I've learned to make the best decisions that I can today, even if that means like getting rid of certain people in my life, and it doesn't matter who, if they're not healthy for me to be around, you know what? That's fine. I've given you a couple of warnings, whatever. You don't want to play nice. See ya, because my worth isn't dependent on what you think anymore. I'm actually a separate person with the right to be happy. And so, and I do think that a more intense program produces much more rapid changes. So our 9-week program produces much more rapid changes, but longer care creates the best outcome for people, period. And so that's why with our 9-week program, we will always include 1 year of membership to our community, because we do not believe that we can just give you 9 weeks and then go out of the nest, little birdies. But we are pushy. And when I say that, we're like mama birds, including Dave, come on, you can fly. We know you can fly. You got to believe us. And they're like, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. Go. Are you sure I can fly? Yes, you can fly, people. You can do this. You know what? We don't believe anyone's hopeless, period. And I think that, you know what, if I can do this, anyone can do this. I started using drugs when I was 9 years old. I'm actually using September, and I hope people will join us with this, to retweet, repost anything that has to do with children, sugar, alternatives to sugar. Stop using sugar as a reward and a punishment for your kids. You can't have this if you don't do that. Oh, you did so good. You can have all this crap to eat. Get them paints, get them, do an activity with them, go for a walk with them, play a game with them, do something, because our kids are getting really sick. And I so truly believe that sugar is the gateway drug. And we see young people dying of opioids left and flipping right in every community, in every city in the United States and North America today. And that is a heinous, horrible thing. And our kids are sweet enough. So, those of you that are out there watching this, if you are watching this and you are, cleaning up your food and you're still buying your kids crap, think twice, because it's a family disease. And I believe what Bitten says, that we have a very special brain, or as someone in Circle says, we have a magical brain. We have a magical brain, and being that I'm a primal health coach, I truly believe that it's people like us that kept the human race alive. We would have gotten up, let's have sex, let's go get some food, let's hunt, let's gather. And so we survived, and then we got polluted with this misinformation that's out there. Okay, so this food, this commercialism, your body should look like this, you need to have that to be happy. All of these pretty shiny things outside of ourselves, it's never going to work. It never has worked, and it never will work. If you think you need more when you get to where you thought you needed to be, it's not going to be enough. Clarissa was on yesterday talking about weighing 80 pounds, and she could not see that she was too thin because the disease told her, more, different, better. It still wasn't good enough. And so finding contentment, it's my responsibility. It's not my fault that I have this disease. And I like to say it as dis-ease, because if you feel uncomfortable in your skin, you might be like me. If you don't like to look at yourself in the mirror in the eyes, you might be an addict like me, So this disease is so cunning, and it affects every single area of our life. And that's why I believe we have to put on our recovery glasses. And we have to look at everything from a new perspective and a new way of looking at it. So, my behaviors and all of that stuff. So we're really action oriented. Our groups are action oriented. I'm actually doing on Friday mornings the 4 agreements, and we're actually listening to it on YouTube, and then we break up into small groups and go over the agreements. And I'm telling you what, that first one, be impeccable with your word, and you start realizing that that's the red dog, that's K-Fuck radio. And and you're letting it tell you about yourself. And what you believe, what you think, you become. And so we really get into rewiring for real. Like, we have to be active. We can't think our way out of the disease of addiction. So, we're not I really believe like we don't take hostages. We don't want someone accidentally coming into our group that's a harmful user, because they're going to be so unhappy, because we are not harmful user recovery people. Our space is for people that know that they have an addiction, that their brain has been rewired. And like Paul Early said on your guys' podcast, once you learn to ride a bike, you can't unlearn to ride that bike. And so we need to teach you how to point that bike in the direction it should go, And so that's what we focus on. We don't like to focus on the problem. We say, get out of the food and get into living. How are you living? How are you living? And everybody wants it to be about the food, about the food, about the food. And then something happens and the switch happens and woo, it's not about the food. It's never been about the food. The food was a symptom of what the sugar did, of the rewiring, and all of a sudden they're relaxed. And to me, stress on the body, that's like eating sugar. You may as well, oh my God, what about the food? You may as well be spooning sugar into your body, what it does to you biochemically, because you're raising your insulin and you're never going to lose fat that way. And it's so funny because as soon as people stop stressing about that stuff, boom, they're good. It's like all of a sudden they melt if they need to. And you can see it from week to week in our groups. And they're not getting on the scale. I've had people who've thrown out their scale. The scale is your enemy.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that magical moment when it's not about the food anymore. So can you tell us a little bit about what is it that you see? What are the factors of success that you see in clients who do well in your program?
Well, first of all, I want to say two things, things that Anna referred to is, number one, we are not a 12-step program. I really want to put that out there. Yet Dave, Anna, and I come from the 12-step rooms. And I think that's why we get along so well, because we live by those principles. We've worked on ourselves, and we live on what I believe, the 12 steps are, which are principles for living. And we live by that. And so we each have integrity with one another. It is just amazing because, there's something in the 12-step rooms called group conscience. And that's when you listen to, everybody, you take a vote. And then there's what's called the minority opinion. And if there's somebody who really doesn't believe in what just went down, that person has the opportunity to stand up and say, they have to get permission to do that, but stand up and say that I don't agree with this. And the vote can change just because of that one person. And that's what I love about us working together. And the second thing is, Anna talked about connection. We base everything on something we call the acronym CARE, which is connection. You got to have other peeps that understand, that know what it's like to be where you are. So connection is huge. And of course, we have the platform for that. And we have like 12 to 15, meetings a week where people can also connect, and you can message somebody privately too. And then, as Anna said, it's amazing. People like in the UK have gotten together, and I think they meet on Saturdays on Zoom because they have a connection there, because the time zones are different. We happen to not have a meeting on Saturday. The 9-weekers are meeting separately. And, we believe that people are grown-ups. They can do whatever they want, but they also know that they belong to Circle, our community, their village members, and they count and are very important. And then the second of the action steps, the A for the CARE is action steps, because you can't think your way out of your addiction. You have to act your way into the right thinking to be able to figure out what to do. And so we really do, we do a lot of action stuff. Like, as I said, deep dive diving into the innards of how we work and what's making us tick and why are we. I don't even like the why are we eating, we like to look at the how, but also, why do you want to do this though? We do that, delve into the why. Like I want to be able to get on the floor with my grandchildren and, or pick them up. I mean, I have a back problem. Like I said, I want to be able to be a part of their lives. And if I wasn't doing what I do, I'd be 1,000 pounds or dead or in a wheelchair and somebody would be having to take care of me. And then we believe in the recovery protection. Now, Terence Gorski, everybody talks about relapse prevention, Paul Early, everybody. But we wanted a positive twist on that. You don't have to relapse. If you do, fine. We'll deal with it. It's a blip in the road. You keep falling forward. That's what we talk about, failing forward, because at least if you stick around, that can happen. But we believe from the very beginning, talking about recovery protection, talking about the fact that this red dog is very cunning, baffling, patient, so patient, will nuzzle its way in any way it can. It's just waiting for the bone. It's just waiting for that moment. And which is why I'm always driving people crazy about be on guard for the unguarded moment, because that's when TRD or red is going to come charging in, and we really, so the recovery protection builds up the blue dog, the recovery part of our brain. So it's actually interesting because Paul Early, I saw your podcast, talked about there's the addictive brain, and I've read his books, and then there's the recovery brain. And, and you asked, Bitten talks about the red dog and talks about the blue dog, and it's exactly the same concept. And he said that. So, I mean, she's been doing that for years, never wrote it down that we could see it, except probably in Swedish, but, not in English. And then we're into education, the E. Education is paramount. Now, for example, in our 9-week course, we don't spend time during our sessions. It's like an 1.5 to 2 hour session twice a week is what the 9-week course is. It's 18 sessions. And there's also our clients deal with 17 with us, and we deal with one that's just for their family members or friends who they wish to invite, and they are not invited. Because 2 reasons. One is we want to do the education to teach that addiction is the real deal thing. It's a brain disease. It's not emotional. You can't help it, blah, blah, blah. But also because we want to teach about enabling, how you shouldn't enable your addict that you live with, like, oh, please go out and get that Ben and Jerry's. Anna talks about that all the time. And her husband would. Well, we would tell people, guess what? They can go out and get it themselves if they want it. You don't have to do it for them and put it, you don't have to take on that responsibility. So, but what we have done is we include in our platform for those 9-weekers, we've included, videos on insulin and glucagon and leptin and ghrelin, all the things that sugar is involved with, that helps us stay abstinent or not, and, what happens to our bodies. So we also do include that. So education is very important to us and truly key that people understand this is a brain disease and not a moral issue. And I call it, and all the things we teach, the action steps we take are to create collateral neuronal pathways to connect the reward center, that midbrain, that instinctual primitive section with the prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, because we've lost those connections. So guess what? You can't think your way, here you are thinking you're going to, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. But meanwhile, you're running to the store at the same time. Like, you can't do it. You just can't do it. So that's what we're all about.
Right. And we actually believe that care leads to, growth and recovery and transformation. that we have to get into action, and community is the first part. And the breakout rooms really help those shy people that might not otherwise participate. And so people that seemed to be kind of wallflowers in the beginning, they're not wallflowers anymore, are they, Judy? They're pretty flippin' amazing, you know, they start to show up for themselves because, you know, again, going back to responsibility, and I'm always saying responsibility. We have the ability to respond, you know, it's not our fault. This rewiring is not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. We like to show the video of this little girl having her first bite of ice cream. And you just see her cramming her little bony fingers into this hard, cold ice cream. And she's like, and she has to have it. You can see the 4th of July going off in her brain. Can you blame her for her response, her instinctual response to sweet? Sweet on the tongue is the tip of our tongue. And in nature, sweet is one of the only things that's not poisonous. And if you don't think that our ancient brain remembers that, think again. And we would have, it was advantageous at one point in our primitive history to gain fat because that would get us through times of lean, which were sure to come. But now I can get Ben and Jerry's 24/7 almost anywhere in the USA, you know, period. And so there is no times of lean, but my brain doesn't know that. So how am I to blame? I'm not going to, you know, I don't even want to even discuss that any further. It is a physical thing that happened because of a psychoactive substance that did not exist. Sugar is not a food. It is a process where something is extracted from a plant and concentrated, just like you take coca leaves, which are not addictive, and people chew them in the Andes and they're fine, but you take them and you grind them down into a powder, then it's addictive, you know? So these aren't substances we would have had access to. So I believe, again, addicts, our brain, our very special magical brain, kept the human race alive. So we should be proud of ourselves. And you know what? There is hope. And we can turn the corner and we can change everything. And I think that, you know, understanding that addicts use because of addiction. And it's normal for an addict to want to use. That is normal because that wiring is so hardwired in us. You know, we don't use because of people. We don't use because of places. We don't use because of things. We don't use because of emotions, feelings, or circumstances. We attribute blame or assign blame to those things because we don't want to accept the fact that we have this rewiring or this damage in our brain. And to me, once we accept that, okay, you know what, the wiring's screwed up. Would you get an electrician, or would you keep trying to use your faulty wiring in your house at the risk of having a fire? No, you wouldn't. You would get an electrician to rewire your house. So it's a wiring problem, and we just need to rewire. And as soon as we accept the responsibility to that, then we can respond to people. We can respond to places, things, circumstances, ideas, feelings. We teach how to identify emotions, and that emotions are instinctual. But we can have a pause, and then we can decide, is that a real or imagined threat? We talk about things like that. If it's a real threat, let's talk about that. What do you got to do about it? Because that's going to be different. A real threat is my house is on fire. I better get out, right? An imagined threat is if I don't get the laundry done tonight, the whole day is going to be crap. That's the kind of thing we need to sort out. And addicts overreact and underreact to things. So the fire in the house, oh, whatever, you know, we don't get it done, or we don't go to the doctor when we feel horrible. You know, I can't tell you how long, and I was clean for a long time, how long it took me to get to the damn doctor for my rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. And I was exercising like crazy, which was another form of addiction, you know, oh, let's go to body pump 5 times a week and let's do Zumba on top of that, you know, and the inflammation and all of that. And, oh, you know, I'm just getting old. Oh, this. So I'm underreacting, right? But then we overreact, you know, your kid looks at you wrong and you're like, God damn it, you know? And so we have to bring this to a reality. Our perception is broken because of this rewiring. And we just need to learn how to we need to have a way to talk about things like feelings and emotions when we didn't even know how to name them. We just went from 0 to the food, or 0 to the drug, or 0 to Amazon, or 0 to Angry Birds, or whatever the outlet is for the day, right? And so I think that's very key. Like, we have to have language around our recovery, and we have to have accurate language around our recovery. We have to learn to identify things, and we have to do some uncomfortable things, like actually feel those feelings and start to trust that feelings aren't facts. And then just because I feel some kind of way doesn't mean that there's truth attached to that. And they're visitors. They just, one of my friends says, a bird can land on your head, but you don't have to let it build a nest there. You can, go away, and you can reach out. You can reach out. You can dance. I love to dance. I love to turn on some disco and dance. That's moving meditation to me. I can't think of anything unpleasant and we do a lot of dancing at Sugar X. We start meetings with music. We end meetings with music. We have a music library that people have put up. We have found some incredible recovery songs. We did a breakup letter today. That was what my topic was this morning. And I played Carole King, "It's Too Late, Baby," for one of the songs. So, we have fun. And you know what? I think that we have to have permission to have fun with our recovery and be creative and playful about it, and not be serious as a heart attack. Oh my God, I ate 1 ounce too much of this. Oh my God, please. There are people dying in third world countries. Let's bring it back to, some kind of reality here. And that's something that's funny to me too. It's interesting. People think they're eating too much, and I'll always ask, what evidence do you have of that? Has your size changed? Are you bigger? What proof do you have that you're eating too much? Because we don't even trust our own mechanisms because they've been broken for so long. So we really like people to relax, because only about 10% of people are going to be like Judy, where they need to weigh and measure every bite. We know that statistically. And so, sometimes we make emergencies and we make mountains out of molehills, and it's getting into trusting the process, easing into that is probably the hardest part of recovery.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like I could listen to you ladies all day long. Unfortunately, we don't have all day long, and I know you guys probably don't either, but we do have a signature question that neither one of you have ever answered for us before. So we would love it if you guys would take a moment to do that for us. So our signature question is, what is something you would tell your younger self about food addiction recovery, carb addiction, sugar addiction, whatever you label it? What is something you would tell a younger version of yourself about that?
Well, for me, I think of the times that I would crawl under my bed with my dog Sam and a book and cry myself, and be in tears, because I thought that something was really wrong with me. Because I just, I couldn't lose weight. I started on a quote unquote formal diet at the age of, I think, 12 or something. And it's sad. Yeah, Molly, it's sad, And I think of the taunting I got, because when I was going to school, it's very different than today. There was nobody obese. Maybe 1 or 2 other people in my entire school that were obese. And so I thought I was a bad person. I referred to that before, that it was a moral issue, and I would say to that person today, you have a disease, a dis-ease, that your brain is wired differently, that it's not your fault. By the way, I didn't mention apples don't fall far from trees, but both my parents, I believe, were food addicts. And I have 4 brothers, siblings, when I was the biggest one growing up, but now I'm the smallest one today, so I was predestined for this, for sure. And Dave, I don't know if he mentioned, but he went to culinary school. He and I love to feed people, absolutely love to feed people. Food was so prevalent in our lives. I mean, it all came down to food. And the one other thing I want to say is, about the moral issue and is that doctors, nutritionists, dietitians, clinicians make you feel that way, made me feel that way throughout my life, that I didn't have willpower or that I wasn't doing it the right way, and guess what? They were treating the wrong problem. They were treating me as a harmful user, and I'm an addict. And so, that's the bottom line. It's not my fault. And that's what I would tell that little girl is it's not your fault, and screw everybody else.
Yeah. And I guess, for me, I grew up Italian in San Francisco, and it was pasta and sourdough bread. And my dad had, every barbershop he had like a big clawfoot bathtub right in the window, growing basil or strawberries. Everything was about food 24/7. Food was entertainment. And then you had the Food Network, and it's food porn. And I always felt like I had a food mosquito, buzzing around my head. I'd eat breakfast and I think, what am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to have for a snack? I always had food with me. I was like a squirrel, with my nuts everywhere. I had food. People called me, what should I make? Oh, Anna, remember that thing you made? Anna, what'd you make for dinner last night? My whole identity, even in recovery from addiction from drugs, was all about food. I was the cook. I was the chef extraordinaire. I could still whip up like anything you want in probably half the time, a quarter of the time most people could do it. That's how well I know my way around the kitchen. I had a cookbook collection to rival a library's cookbook collection. I have autographed cookbooks, you guys, from, famous people, Jacques Pepin, and, what's her name? Oh, just put a little chicken in the pot, Julia Childs, people gift me this kind of stuff. That's how what a foodie I am. I used to sit there out with friends and watch them not eat their dessert, and I couldn't take my mind off of it. My brain was like, oh my God, are you going to let that go to waste? And my brain was conniving. How can I get that dessert from that person? And I couldn't even be present in my conversations. And so I would tell myself, girl, you know what? It's not all about the food. I was afraid to let go of it. I was afraid to let go of my identity. I thought that was all I had to offer. If I was a good cook, my husband would be like this with the fork, with my 5-course meals I would make every single day. And he'd be like, and I would say, well, because I wanted that kudos for this beautiful meal that I made, and now today I don't need to be valued for what I do. I'm a human being, not a human doing. And so food became this armor for me too, and I think a lot of women relate with that, like if I make you cookies, if I make you this and that, you'll love me, right? It's an exchange. The disease is so cunning, and it really does permeate everything you do. So I think that I would tell myself it's a lot better without the food.
Oh, I love both of your answers so much. And I always love getting answers from her. They're all so unique. I don't think we've heard the same answer twice. What do you think, Clarissa?
Yeah, no, I get chills every time. And I get very excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today, you guys. And we'll make sure to have all of your contact information, SugarX Global. We'll have all of that in the, quote unquote show notes that will go with your episode that is broadcast for everyone in the Facebook group. So thank you so much for being here.
And you guys do a great job, and keep up the good work, getting the word out. It is, yay, you guys.
Yeah, seriously, it's such a time and space in this in this field. And what I really love is how magnanimous everybody is to one another, because it's such a huge problem. And I think all of us have such personal experience with it that it's just really nice to be able to collaborate in any way, shape, or form to make sure that someone who's out there suffering finds a way. And there's so many ways. And so, I would just end with saying, don't give up on trying to find a way. SugarX Global's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Molly's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Clarissa's not. There's other cups of tea out there, guys. Find a way. Find a way. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up before the miracle happens.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for joining us today on the Food Junkies Food Addiction Summit.
If you would like to hear more, tune in every Friday to the Food Junkies podcast, available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcast. Subscribe so you'll never miss a show.
Don't forget to pick up a copy of Dr. Tarman's book, Food Junkies, which is available on Amazon.
If you have any additional questions, both Molly and Clarissa are food addiction professionals and work one-on-one with clients. Their websites and email addresses are available at foodjunkiespodcast.com.
As Vera always says, the power is ours.